Alrighty guys, it's been a solid week since Season 4 just dropped. We have the new SMG, the LC10, and the Assault Rifle FFAR-1. Now, we're going to be talking about the LC10 because we're trying to see and we're going to give an in-depth breakdown whether this SMG is good or not. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already played it and already feel great with it, but let me give you the breakdown of the stats to explain to you why it feels great overall as a good SMG for Season 4. Alright, let's get started. So like I always do with my weapon review, guys, I take a lot of inspiration from Exclusive Ace. I think he does a very good job in breaking down the weapon stats rather than just saying, oh, this LC10 is a great SMG, and then just shows you 10 minutes of like multiplayer footage or Warzone footage, okay? So I'm going to be talking about the stats. We're going to be talking about damage. We're going to be talking about TTK, shots to kill, shots to down, accuracy, mobility, and handling. There's basically the pros and cons of using the LC10 for Season 4. Alright guys, so let's start with the damage. Now the time to kill on this for someone that is not wearing plates is going to be about 4 shots. So if you look over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 shots. Now if you mix in headshots with it, I believe it's still 2 headshots, 2 chest shots. So 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't really matter if you throw in headshots, it's still going to be the same shots to kill. Now moving on to a fully plated individual in Warzone, it's going to be taking 8 shots to the chest for a full takedown. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So even if you're going to attempt to mix headshots into this, hopefully to get a faster time to kill, in my opinion, it's probably not going to be viable because it still takes 4 shots to the head as well as 4 shots to the chest to fully down a player. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, you know, ideally it's still the same 8 shots to kill even at a 10-meter range. Now, according to True Game Data's website, the fastest TTK is going to be the LC10, but it's not going to be fast as much as you think it is. The LC10 stands at 528 milliseconds while the Jackal PDW is at 525 milliseconds. Now, unfortunately, the crappy part about this is that the 528 and 525 milliseconds, that's still within the 10-meter range. But now, if you were to take the shots past the 10-meter range where you're going from close range to mid-range combat, the Jackal PDW actually still keeps its TTK low at 525. So at a very close range fight, your LC10 is generally going to win your fights, but anything after that, it's going to be an even battle with the Jackal PDW, and dare I say, the PDW is probably going to win its fights more if you land your shots. Alright, so moving on to accuracy. Now the LC10 has the best recoil out of all the SMGs in regards to it being on paper, right? We got the vertical recoil at 33.36 degrees a second, we got the horizontal recoil at 10.19 degrees a second, and gun kick recoil, which is 33.75 degrees a second. Now if you guys are wondering what this specific number is, because I'm sure a lot of people are kind of confused on how to read this number. Degrees, right? You think of degrees moving up and down. With vertical, it's saying that, hey, for every second that you're shooting off this gun, it is moving up X amount of degrees. That X amount is at 33. That's why with horizontal, you see the number a lot more lower because horizontal kick isn't as intense as vertical kick. But if you're ever wondering how to read the recoil stats, that is the most simplest way that I can put it in regards to how much this gun kicks horizontally, vertically, and with gun kick control. Alrighty, so this is going to be the LC10 with 0 attachments on this gun. This is how the recoil is looking for the LC10. Now this is with me doing minimal recoil. I'm not moving left or right. I'm just pulling down on the sticks. Without pulling down on the sticks, it's going to look like this. So as you can see with the overall vertical pattern, you know, you see a trend pattern of kicking to the right. So what that means is if you are tracing players that are moving to the right, this is going to be easier to trace compared to players moving on to the left. Because if they're strafing to the left, that means you have to fight this right kick. And as you can see, the pattern doesn't deviate. It's still going to be the same pattern every time you shoot the gun. So here's the example of having the same recoil pattern without any control on the sticks. So as you can see, it's always going to pull to the right. So because of this kick, remember, just be mindful. It's going to be easier strafing players that are moving to the right compared to strafing players that are moving to the left. All right, so this is going to be the LC10 where it's going to have full recoil control build on here. We have the vertical foregrip on here. We got the compensator, and we also have the recoil springs for its fire attachment mod. So if you look at a closer example, so as you can see, the recoil is very easy to control. What's good about SMGs that have very good base levels of recoil control where it's already naturally better compared to the other SMGs out there is that you can focus other attachments on this weapon. If you guys are familiar with the Superi 46, right, when the Superi 46 SMG came out, the recoil was almost non-existent. What that allowed players to do is that when they built their Superi 46, they didn't have to focus on any recoil control. Why? Because the gun was already extremely easy to control. Now, mind you, Call of Duty is the most easiest skill to master in regards to recoil control. But what I'm saying is that with SMGs that already have that great baseline, you can focus on other stats like movement stats. You can focus on bullet velocity stats. So even though this recoil may not have a strong recoil build, you don't have to have a strong recoil build. That means you can use it and build it for your mid-range fights to have a slightly faster CTK because you can double stack on bullet velocity for this weapon. But overall, you know, the recoil is extremely easy to control, and I'm loving this gun so far. But honestly, the LC10 was the only great thing that came out of it. The FFAR was it's so-so. We're hearing from a lot of players that it's so-so. The servers have been unstable. There hasn't been any actual changes to the anti-cheat. You know, there was a ban wave recently with engine owning, but honestly, engine owning always gets detected. Nothing's new beyond that, but nothing groundbreaking where it's going to be a good start for Season 4. Alright, so moving on to the mobility of the weapon. Unfortunately, the movement stats for the LC10 is generally the same across the board compared to the other SMGs, so there's nothing really great there. And unfortunately for its ADS speed, the aim down sight speed, as well as the sprint to fire speed, it's not going to be the best in that category. All the other SMGs in regards to sprint to fire, they are 20 to 30% faster, and then the other SMGs for the aim down sight speed is going to be about 10 to 20% faster. So even though the LC10 is going to be great in regards to time to kill, it has good damage output, it has great recoil control. Unfortunately for movement and handling of this weapon, it's not going to be the best in that category. But yeah, that's basically the main categories that I wanted to talk about with the LC10. There's really not much more details that you need to go into. But with the LC10, let's talk about the pros, let's talk about the cons, and whether if it's something in SMG that you might want to use for your gameplay. Alright, so starting with the pros, guys, it is going to be the fastest TTK out of all the other SMGs, but like I mentioned earlier, the SMG is only faster by 3 milliseconds. After that 3 millisecond mark, that's where the Jackal PDW comes by. And even another con is that after that 10 meters that you're fighting, anything after that, the Jackal PDW actually has a faster time to kill. So the LC10 is really only good for its 0 to 10 meter fights. Second thing is that the LC10 has an overall lower recoil compared to the other SMGs. So if you want, you could go with an extreme recoil build and just have like literally non-existent recoil. Or what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to stack up and sacrifice either movement to add more bullet velocity to the weapon, or you're going to sacrifice velocity to add more movement to the weapon, because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to add attachments that are going to help you with your ADS, that is going to help you with your sprint to fire. Maybe you got to add the combat stock so that you can get a better overall movement with your weapon. Whatever build that you decide to do, you're gonna have to sacrifice one specific stat, and I think that's generally the same with all weapons. You can't have all three. You can't have movement, you can't have bullet velocity and recoil control all great at the same time. One has got to give in that triangle. And then one last pro, guys, is look at this iron sight. Guys, look how clean this iron sight is. You don't even have to waste any attachments on red dot. Because of how clean it is, where it's an open circle, it has the line in the middle for a great lineup shot. That means anything from 0 to 10, and dare I say maybe mid-distant ranges, it's still going to be easy to mow down and see your player even without using a red dot attachment. So unfortunately, even though this weapon does have a great TTK, has great damage overall, and has great recoil control, it gets countered hard because of how average the movement speed is and how much the sprint to fire and ADS speeds are a lot more faster with the other SMGs. But other than that, guys, that's the LC10. That's my review. That's my thoughts on it. In my opinion, am I gonna use it? Heck yeah, I've been using it every single time for Season 4. I have not changed to any other SMGs, and I am loving it. I have been getting great kills. The TTK feels very quick, feels very nice, and the recoil is very easy to control. So in my opinion, I would still use it regardless of the cons that I explained. But if anything, guys, I hope this review helps. If you did enjoy the content, please drop a like to the video. It helps it a lot in the algorithm, and drop a sub to the channel if you want to see more of this content. Alright guys, stay pure, stay noble, hashtag bring back honest gaming. Noble out.